Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, so the Warriors take the victory 101-98. And it was so much going on that would make your heart stop in this game. Definitely not for the faint of heart at all. When you're talking about the Golden State Warriors, essentially what you saw earlier in the game, as we talked about at the half, was anemic three-point shooting. But they made it work out. They let their defense do the talking for them. They made sure that they hit their free throws, unlike the Grizzlies. And I think that ultimately, believe it or not, was the difference for them. Um, the Grizzlies had the lead for the entire game up until 45 seconds left to go in the fourth quarter. The absolute worst kind of game to lose. When you have your lead the whole time and give it up at the very end, and mind you, it's a playoff game, you're down 2-1, you're on the road, your best player is gone. That is one of the most demoralizing scenarios that I could think of. A lot of people say, oh, getting blown out by 70. No. If you get blown out by 70, you didn't try. That kind of thing. Or, no, heartbreaker at the buzzer, something like that. Yeah, that's really horrible. But this type of scenario, this overall thing right here, I don't know how you come back from that if you're the Memphis Grizzlies. I don't know how. Nothing short of Ja Morant coming back, playing in Game 5, I think can help this team overcome what just happened to them. Now, if they can do that, if they can get their emotions out of it, get their disappointment out of it, the reality is they had the lead for the whole game. You basically won the game. You just didn't close. And you look at where you didn't close, and you'll see the difference really is at the free throw line. You matched their turnovers. I think it was the same. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was matched. If I'm not mistaken, they won the boards numbers. You know how I am with that. But at the end of the day, it wasn't like there was a huge discrepancy. I mean, the Warriors couldn't shoot at all. You were playing pretty solid defense, but just could not get the ones that matter. I think there's a few things that I saw down there. Tyus Jones, he played 41 minutes tonight in place of Ja Morant. I thought he played pretty well, hoisted up 18 shots. That was the most attempts to anyone on the team. That was a mistake. It's nothing wrong with him and his attempts. None of that is no. This is about Taylor Jenkins choosing to give those minutes to Tyus Jones and not Brandon Clark. That's where the mistake was made. Nothing wrong with Tyus Jones. He did everything you would want him to do with the minutes he was given. He gave you what he gives you. But you played Brandon Clark 10 minutes on the road tonight and got out-rebounded. One of the reasons why you were able to beat the Timberwolves, probably the main reason why you were able to overcome the Timberwolves, is because that man was a factor in that series that no one could do anything about. They couldn't stop him. They weren't prepared for him, and he out-rebounded them at a high clip on the offensive glass. Tonight, you don't even use him, and you're down a guy, and you lost. There's the type of decision. We it really does come down to small decisions like that. There's another thing that I'm sensing here that I guess I'm learning because I'm still growing in this. But one thing that I'm starting to see a correlation between is if they play D, no three. They're not able to hit the shot. You're seeing it in Miami, you're seeing it in Phoenix, you're seeing it here, you're seeing it all over. If a guy is playing a lot of hard defense on talented players, if he's constantly kicking his legs on D, chances are in these playoffs, he's shooting poorly from behind the arc. It's you see it everywhere, every single where, and you're seeing it all over these playoffs right here. Jaren Jackson couldn't get nothing going from behind the arc. He was 0 for 7. Klay Thompson, I believe, is just, I don't know if it's necessarily defense or more so him just not necessarily finding his way, but he had another stinker tonight. Dylan Brooks hit some threes, but his shot has been struggling. He's big on the defensive end. You just see it all up and down for both teams. You see a lot of bad shooting for defensive players. So that's something that you just understand. It's just going to be the case, and you just want teams to choose their threes wisely. I know we're in the 3-point era, but usually the teams that recklessly toss up bad 3-point shots or too many 3-point shots are the teams that are losing the games they're in. That's just what I'm seeing every single way. So, but if you're hitting it, your chances are you win it. So it's a give and take, but you will live and die behind it. All right, so what else? You definitely want to give credit to Draymond Green for the game-winning block. He made it very clear. He tells everybody, "This is what I do every night." That's what he was mouthing at the end of that big play. This is what I do every night, and it is true. That's why I was saying Draymond Green is the person I'm paying the most attention to in this series, and mainly, just on their team, because I know he's the engine that makes it go. Steph Curry can put up a great deal of points, and does all kinds of stuff to make nightmares for you. Klay Thompson, when he's right, same thing. But the guy who makes them go, the guy who makes sure they get the ball, the guy who makes sure that they don't have facilitating duties and have to make sure everybody else gets involved, they can just do what they do, is Draymond Green. And then on the other end, he's kicking his legs, he's doing all the defensive stuff. So it's like, as my basketball IQ grows, my appreciation for players like Draymond and what it is that they bring to the table and the importance of what they do grows. And tonight it was on full display. It's simply that. Jaren Jackson really did have a good game, 5 blocks, but 0 for 7 from Trey. And that last 3-point shot he attempted, the one that we're discussing here, where Draymond had the block and then was screaming, "This is what I do." Yeah, that was a terrible shot by Jaren Jackson. He should have never attempted that. As for all the other threes that he attempted, 0 for 7, yeah, nah. He should not have been the guy shooting those threes. I'm not asking that he be bashful. I do like him being a threat from behind the arc. I comfortably believe he could hit threes, multiple threes, no problem. But once you start seeing it become an 0 for 4 type situation, at that point, if you're Taylor Jenkins, you know for a fact you don't want him taking the last shot. So that was a thing. I thought Slow-Mo was fantastic. They were much better with him on the floor. I don't know if he got in foul trouble or something, but pulling him off the floor, I thought things got worse when they did that. I think things were directly correlated to him being on the floor and things going well. He was getting boards. He was getting to the line. He was connecting. Playing defense, getting guys to the ball. Everything that you needed Slow-Mo to do, he really did at a very good level for himself tonight. And I just felt it. Like, as soon as Taylor Jenkins subbed him out, to my eyesight, it seemed like that's when Golden State was able to actually obtain the lead, and then from there just run away with it. I felt throughout this entire game, if you were a Golden State fan, you hated watching this because you were always so close to the lead but never could actually obtain it to the very last second. And I felt like if you watched this game in its entirety and you were a Grizzly fan, probably made a grown man cry for that same reason. You just really appreciate being able to watch these games and not be attached to it as a fan, because this is not one of the ones I would have enjoyed being a part of on either side. The only way you really enjoy this game, if you ask me, is either if you're in my position and don't like either one of these teams, or if you're a Golden State fan and happen to tune in at the 45-second mark. Because if you watch this game as a Warrior fan, you were having a horrible time with this. Watching them brick shots after shot after shot, getting so close and having opportunities to get the lead in various parts of the game, but just breaking those particular shots, and then they go back down and score and get some more separation. Like, it was very hard if you're watching from a Golden State perspective. But ultimately they got the win, so I'm sure they're feeling great. Again, Memphis is a young bunch, and with young teams, you lean on the notion that they will probably be able to bounce back from something like this. It's usually the old teams, guys that are veterans, that go through these type of scenarios and can't bounce back from them because it demoralizes them. So too many memories getting their heart broke, just fatigue, mental fatigue. Young teams, they tend to forget stuff like that. Yeah, did that hurt? Yeah, but they just want to get back out there and run some more. So I think if anybody can overcome that horrible thing, it would be a young team like Memphis. However, going up against the Golden State Warriors, overcoming that mental hurdle and actually beating them in a game 5 is two different things, unfortunately. And they'll have to do both in order to move on. So I liked Golden State winning this series in 7. I'm not gonna waver from that necessarily. It's too early to even start talking about Game 5 like that. But what I can say is, with the 3-1 series lead headed back to Memphis, I don't feel too good about Memphis' chances of getting this thing back to Golden State. I just don't. They're gonna need Ja Morant to be Ja Morant, and there's no guarantees even playing in that game. So it's pretty bad for them. You saw Steven Adams return. He did some really good things for them. Of course, they got away from him down the stretch, which I think kind of hurt them in terms of their rebounding because he really was helping with that. But you know how it is with traditional centers in this era right now. These playoffs, the way they spread the floor, they just don't allow you to leave those guys on the floor for too long. So I'm not in love with it, but it is where we are. So that is that. What else? Yeah, that's really it, man. I'm just realized that the Golden State Warriors are slightly vulnerable at this point. Missing GP2, Klay Thompson looking as bad as he does. Jordan Poole had another off night. That's 2 off nights in a row for him. It would be great for the Golden State Warriors to end this series in 5. They don't need to be playing extra basketball. And with the way things are going, they really need some rest. They need some distance between this series and the next series if they're to move on, because they got to shake off some of what they got going on here. And another thing that I thought was kind of interesting tonight on the Golden State side of things, they got away with is not playing Jonathan Kuminga. I thought that was a real head scratcher. I love the minutes that they got out of Kevon Looney. I thought he was great. Obviously, Draymond great, but you just figured Jonathan Kuminga came off a game where he was really efficient, played really well, and you just want to see him continue to get those opportunities. But you also understand that Golden State had Mike Brown out there tonight, and he had probably his own way of putting things together for their roster, and it worked. They won. So that I guess I have more questions than I do commentary. I think the question I guess I have is, was he facilitating Steve Kerr's wishes, or was he in control of the roster? But however it played out, it worked out. Definitely need to be mentioning Otto Porter and Andrew Wiggins. As I told you guys in the pregame video, those two guys are the two guys that really kick off things, in my opinion, for the Golden State Warriors in terms of, your others. Who are the first others I like to look at outside of Jordan Poole, of whom I don't know if he's an other necessarily. I kind of look at him as a star at this point, but who am I looking at? Who outside of those normal Golden State supers do I look at and say, okay, that's who's going to do the heavy lifting, meat and potatoes work for this team? And it's those two. They play great D. They Otto Porter Jr. was hitting from behind the arc. I'm not really sure what Wiggins did from behind the arc tonight, but the point is they both play excellent defense. They both contribute on the offensive end, and they're steady on that offensive glass. Both of them get key offensive rebounds, and you saw it tonight, So I just really have been impressed with what I've seen from those two, and they really complement that defense quite a bit. So, yeah, the Golden State Warriors have done a great job retooling, man. You got to give that organization credit. They didn't fall apart when a couple players, went down, KD left and all that. Nah, they just went back to the drawing board, trusted their process, and continued building their franchise. And you look up and they got another chance at a championship ring. So I think they should be very excited about themselves and what they can do for themselves going forward this year and in the future. They look pretty good. So, yeah, that's what it is. And as far as Memphis, man, Understand that they were missing John Moran. That's like 30 points and 10 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, right? And some defensive stats as well. It's one of the best players out there. So when you don't have him out there and you still put up a fantastic effort, you need credit. And they showed you that they could still win games without him. A couple made free throws, maybe a few shuffles of the lineup here and there. And I think the Golden State Warriors go home a loser tonight. But it was not meant to be. I think shot selection and, just that really is it. Poise and shot selection hurt them down the stretch. You just can't let yourself get too caught up forcing up bad 3-point shots over and over again. That's what it was. And Memphis Grizzlies, they weren't horrible on the defensive end, but offensively, they just didn't give themselves enough. I like what I saw from Dillon Brooks. I want to make sure I mention him because he was really good out there. And he's had a very tough playoffs. But after being suspended, coming back into this game, I thought he attacked well. Down the stretch, I liked his shot selection was actually very good down the stretch. Passing up 3-point shots to drive into the lane and just making life easy for himself, making possessions count. I think if Dillon Brooks plays like this every night, they still got a shot at getting back into this thing. But it's going to be very important to continue to get the best out of him, is particularly scoring the ball. If he's 3 for 12, 3 for 13 or whatever, Memphis is a losing team. But if he's upwards of 8 for 12 and he's playing defense like he's supposed to, getting to the line, hitting free throws, he's a player that's hard to beat. Desmond Bane was really good tonight. You got to give credit to Desmond because he's playing with a hurt back and still playing excellent. Shooting the ball, playing defense, doing what he has to do to stay competitive. But it's just kind of tough. You're going up against the Splash Brothers, and he's basically the only guy who can really shoot like that on that team. So it's rough, but I think he's had a hell of a season. I think this is somebody who should probably have been considered for some type of award of some sort, just to commemorate the type of shooting season that he's had. Man, this is only a second-year player, and he stood toe-to-toe in these playoffs. So got to give him his credit, along with the rest of that Memphis Grizzlies team. I'm talking like they're about to go home because I really do believe they probably are, man. It's not even about their heart or how well they can play in Game 5. It's just Golden State. They got a chance to close you out. And then when you've watched them, and seen how they've done things over the past, what has it been now, 12 years, you just understand that the likelihood of a young team overcoming that, especially under the circumstances they're in, is very slim. Now, games still have to be played within the lines, of course, but you talk about the psychological hurdles and the matchup, it's a tall task. It's a lot. So I just want to salute the Memphis Grizzlies for having a fantastic season, regardless of what happens from here. Those are great kids and their future is bright. And I'll say something else. I don't think I have the solution here in terms of how to look at this, but I do think John Moran is too young to be having knee issues. And if there's any risk of these knee issues being a problem for him going forward, which it obviously is, I think shutting him down is the right decision for their organization and for himself. I do. But I wrestle with it because I really do think this Memphis Grizzlies team is good enough to win a championship. I think that. We could be looking at a situation where, he shuts it down and they fizzle out in this series and he never plays on another team this good again. God forbid something like that is the case, but that's real. In this league, that's very real. So, I don't blame him for wanting to come back out there and play, even if it could do more damage. I don't blame him for wanting to do that if he does, but you got a long career ahead of you, and we just have too many stories, too much history, too much evidence of players who've had the type of athleticism that he has not have very long careers because of the type of injuries that he just picked up. Derrick Rose, think about guys like Steve Francis. I think about all kinds of dudes that jumped around for a time and then their knees bust out and they're never the same. And see, there's certain players who their game is going to continue to go forward because they don't need speed and athleticism and all that. Ja is not that person. He needs his speed. He needs his athleticism. He needs to be able to get to the rim. He needs to be able to jump over people. You see what James Harden's going through. You see what Russell Westbrook's going through. You see what's going on around the league with some of these aging guys. The wear and tear of them legs don't let them have that first step. The wear and tear of them legs don't let the jump shot fall as wet. And a guy like Ja Morant, at 20 years old, he's so used to being able to move freely. It's almost like he's flying out there. He probably thinks and his body moves exactly as he wants it to. Once he starts going through those struggles with them knee injuries and all that, if he don't let that stuff heal, man, he gonna go through the struggle of his life trying to make his career continue. I was listening to Tim Legler on the JJ Redick's podcast. He was talking about his knee injuries and how he wished he would have allowed him to heal properly, and and all the different mental hurdles it took to try to get back and all of this. I'm telling you, Ja Morant, if the knee injury isn't that bad and you got a great chance of ending this season healthy, you know what I'm saying? And you can go in the off season without no rehab, I think that's probably a better bet. That's probably a better bet than going out there in these playoffs, busting up your knee, and then letting the chips fall where they may with the series. Because I think about a guy like Grant Hill, who did that in a series where he got swept. He was playing against the Miami Heat, and he went out there for 3 straight games on an ankle that was clearly busted to hell. It was busted to hell. He made it a lot worse and ended up having extreme complications that almost ended his life. Now, obviously, that's a extreme case. And, of course, he did come back and have a great, lengthy career. But he was never that guy that he was supposed to be. His talent, he never became that guy. And it's because he played in those games, in the playoffs, and then ultimately wasn't able to have success healing. So that's something. Those are cautionary tales that humble us, that allow us to understand that you got to weigh this out the right way. Yeah, could you find yourself in a situation where you never play on another team that's good? Sure. You could also find yourself in a situation like that. So weigh it wise, man. That's what I got to say, man. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm fairly certain that the Memphis Grizzlies are going home, but they're a great bunch of young players, and if they come out and win that game, it won't surprise me either, because they certainly do play well without Ja Morant. We know that. And there were things they could have did tonight to win this game. And I'm pretty sure that will haunt them all off season, regardless of what happens. Because these are the playoffs, and you don't like to leave none up there. So it just is what it is, man. Golden State Warrior fans hung in there strong with their team. Kept a good atmosphere out there. But this series is going to be shifting back to Memphis, and I know it's going to be a different energy. It's going to be a different energy because it's been a long year for that team. They have high expectations, and they don't want to go home. And it's a lot of, what's the word? SHIT talking going on from their end. And they're about to go out in embarrassing fashion if they don't fight back. So I expect them to do just that. I'm looking at it. I'm looking for a physical game coming up. I'm looking for a game that's going to be mucky and dirty. I'm looking for people to try to flagrant foul people and all that. If I'm Steve Kerr, I'm mentally preparing my team for a dog fight for the ages coming home to Memphis, because I do not expect that team to mail it in. I don't expect guys to be thinking about Cancun tonight. I don't expect none of that. This is a young team that can't wait to get back out there. And, we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Like I said, extra basketball is not good for the Golden State Warriors, so if they're smart, they'll close this thing out. And that's pretty much what I got to say, man. Get well soon, Steve Kerr. Get well soon, Ja Morant. Get well soon, Gary Payton II. And, BDF 44, man. Thank you all for watching. I'm out.